All right, folks, welcome back to Prepping with Sarge. Today I have a video review for you. I want to say a very special thanks to OKMO for sending me this 1000 watt power station for me to review for you all. Let's give it a try, let's test its capabilities, let's see what it can do, and I'll give you my final thoughts on what kind of uses the prepper community might find for this. Stay with me now. All right, so of course you're going to get the 1000 watt power station. That's obvious. You're also going to get your user guide, okay? You're also going to get a car charger input adapter so you can actually charge it from, the cigar lighter adapters there. And you've got also an AC input adapter for charging it through, your regular charging cable. And it is also capable of charging from your PV input solar panels, and OKMO sells 100 watt solar panels, which I did not get that with my kit. I'm probably going to purchase it just to increase my capabilities. As you guys know, I live in hurricane country. We get power outages usually at least a couple times a year. Tropical storms can knock out our power as well. So I have multiple ways to keep us, keep our lights going, keep our radios going, keep our flashlights going, keep our fans going. All kinds of things like this. This just kind of increases my capabilities, okay? So it is 1000 watts, of course. It is 1110 watt hours. Peak output is 2000 watts. So of course, that's going to help you when you're doing startup on some of your items, which there's usually a bigger charge. Sometimes it's double for charging your items when they start up, and then it kind of levels off. This is 300,000 milliamps. So by comparison, you've seen some of the reviews I've done on the battery banks. The big ones that can charge your iPhone like 7 times, those are 50,000. Okay, so take that, multiply that by 6. So just to give you a rough idea, this could probably charge, like an iPhone 11. I'm gonna say roughly, before I even do any testing, it could roughly charge it about 42 times, right? Obviously, you're going to use this for other items besides your phone. We'll get to that later on, but I wanted to show you what it comes with when you unbox it. All right, now sometimes these LED displays don't show up good on the camera, but we'll give it a try. So I'm going to hit the power button, and out of the box, mine has about a 40% charge. If you can't see that, if it's blinking or flashing, it's a 40% charge. All right, so we're going to go ahead and plug this in, and this is going to be our first test. So let's give that a plug. And I'm going to mark the time for myself. We'll come back and we'll see what this thing does. In the meantime, I want to show you a couple other things about this. So obviously it has 3 AC outputs. So you can use that to, run your fans, probably some small appliances. This does have some limitations. You're not going to be able to run a window unit AC. If you could even get it to run, it's going to probably not run very long. Small refrigerator, small refreezer. Yeah, maybe we're going to test that out today. We're going to test it out with a freezer. Obviously, you can charge up your laptop. You can charge up your, tablets, your phones. If you've got one of those battery chargeable fans that I do recommend for power outages, if you've got rechargeable flashlights, all of those things, rechargeable batteries, all of that's going to be very much doable through this. But I can tell you that even before I start to run my tests. You've also got some USB outputs here, including a fast charge USB. I like that. I like to see that. So we're gonna play around with this a little bit, but let's just kind of let it sit. So it was at 40%. We'll see what it is in, let's say, an hour or two. I'll come back. I'll check with you. Okay, it's been an hour. Let's unplug and see what we got for a charge. Okay, we're still at about 40%, no problem. Let's run it another hour, see what we got. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours. Let's go ahead and unplug, see what we got. All right, give this I'm gonna turn it off, turn it back on. So we're at about 60% now. So in 2 hours, it gained about 20%. That is consistent with what I've read in some of the reviews. It's about what I expected. So basically, to charge this up from 0 to 100%, you're looking at about somewhere between 9 and 10 hours off of the adapter. All right, so we've been charging that up for a little bit now. It's a little over 60%. I can tell you that one of the things I check for whenever I'm doing an electronics review is I'm curious how hot things get. Now I can tell you that the adapter input is warm. It's very warm to the touch. It's not hot. It's not uncomfortable to hold it, but it is very warm. It does say in the instruction manual, and I would agree with, when you're charging this up, make sure that there's nothing lying on top of it. You don't want to throw a t-shirt on it or knock something on top of it. It has to have some room to let that heat dissipate, okay? But it doesn't feel like it's going to catch fire or anything like that. It's just warm as you would expect because it's generating a lot of input into the power station. All right. So let's do the next thing, which is let's check if the car adapter will also generate a charge for that. I'm not going to do it for very long. I just want to know that it's capable of doing that. So we're going to pick that up. I'm going to move it over to my vehicle. Let me unplug this real quick. I think we're at an 80% charge. Yeah, so we're at about 80%. And we're just going to do this for a few minutes to make sure that it can get a charge that way. I want to test that out. And by the way, when you're moving this around, it's about 30 pounds. So it's not super heavy. Okay, so here's my first negative with this. This is definitely charging with the car charger, but this cord needs to be a whole lot longer. That's not gonna work for me. So yeah, because I should be able to put this on the ground out here, right? I should be able to do, I would like for that to be, at minimum a 10-foot cord. So it is working though, it is working. So just kind of pointing that out. That's something that if they issue a second version of this, that really should be addressed. That needs to be a longer cord. All right, you can find car adapter cord. It's just not gonna be the proprietary one. Well, it's not a proprietary one. It's not going to be the one that comes with it. So sometimes it's not a big deal. Sometimes that can cause, that it's not going to charge as efficiently as if it was the one that came with the product. All right, something to think about, but it does work. It is charging, as you can see. All right, so we're back plugged into the DC input. And the next test we're going to do is, it says in the instruction manual that you should be able to use the outputs while it is also charging, right? Whether that be solar or DC input or car charger, right? So that's what we're going to do. This is the Now Light. I have another review on this. It's not made by OKMO, separate company. I'll link that review though, so you guys can see that in the end cards if you're able to see end cards. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to charge this up while the OKMO is charging as well. And we'll run that for, an hour and see how it goes. So this is a USB charger. So we'll try one of the USBs. And actually this looks like it's got the fast charge. So we'll try the fast charge with it. Okay, so good reminder there. To turn on the outputs, you're gonna have to click the button, right? So this one is just a simple click, right? On and off. Okay, I'm gonna click it back on. Now I don't know if the LED is gonna show up, but that's 50% right now, power 50. So we'll try this for, we'll try to 30 minutes and then come back and check it out, see how everything's doing. Folks, it's been 30 minutes later and I am real happy with that. If you can't read it because it's flashing, the LEDs are flashing, it says power 63%. So this has gained, with the fast charge, this has gained 13% in 30 minutes. That's good. That's real good for this because I know what the baseline is on this. All right, so let's kick it up a notch. Now I'm going to keep it plugged in. For this next test here, I'm going to plug in a couple more things, keep that plugged in and see how that performs. So bear with me here just a second while I get that set up. All right, let's kick this up a notch. So we've got our Now Light plugged in through the fast charge. We're gonna let that roll a little bit more. I've got an iPad on here and I let this run down a little bit. Let's see if you can see that on there. That is down to 22%. All right, we're gonna let that run. And that is plugged in through the AC outputs on that side. And this is an iPhone 6 that I only use for some B-roll stuff. And I let that run down to about 43%, okay? That is also plugged in to the AC outputs, okay? So we're gonna just let this run. Let's try 30 minutes. Let's see where everything's at, okay? Folks, if you've been enjoying my review, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you would like to see me do a follow-up review with the OKMO solar panels down the road, if I pick those up, and I think I am going to pick those up, just let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see that. If this is your first time to the channel, please consider subscribing. I drop content at least twice a week, always something prepping related. Often it is a product review, but I also talk about gardening, food, self-sufficiency. I show you some plants in the wild that you can eat, do some wilderness survival and bushcrafting. I would love to have you be part of the channel. All right, it's been 30 minutes later. Let's check everything out. So first thing, I'm gonna unplug the DC input. Let's see what we got. So we actually, believe it or not, the charge has gone up, even with drawing power for all these other small little electronics. It's showing 100%. I'm guessing it's probably a little bit less than 100%. Let's plug that back in for now. Okay, the unit is very, very cool to the touch. No worries there. The input adapter is warm, but no more warm than it was before. Okay, the now light is now up to 74%. All right, let's take a look at the iPad. I believe this was at 22%. Uh-oh, you know what I did wrong? It's still at 22%. That's okay, so that's good to show you during this test anyways, no problem. What I did wrong was, I just realized it, you have to hit this to turn the AC output on. So, and I think it's oh, I'm sorry, for this one you hold in for 2 seconds. All right. Okay, and interesting, did you hear the fan kick on? Just for a second, something internal, there was a little bit of noise, still much quieter than a gas-powered generator. It made a noise for a few seconds and now it's off. Still very, very quiet though, no problem at all. Okay, so now we have the AC and the USB going. We're just gonna have to check this again in another 30 minutes. All right, folks, let's try that again. So it's been 30 minutes later. Again, we are at 83% right now on the now light. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and unplug the DC input and see how the power station's charge is holding up. Okay, so it's somewhere between like 90% and 100%. Again, it's impossible to say exactly what that is. All right, let's check our iPad. This was the one that was at 22%. What do we got? 39%. 39%. Okay, so that was in 30 minutes of actually charging. And the iPhone 6 was at 43%. Wow, that one is up to 78%. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good for charging times. I'm happy with that. Let's check the heat on everything again. Okay, so the adapter feels about the same to me. I don't really notice any big increase in heat. Whoops, sorry. And the power station's a little bit warmer now, but it's still fine. It's much less than that. All right, so a couple things since I'm talking about all this. It does have a smart chip inside of it, so if it starts to get overloaded, it should shut down. If the USB is not being used or the cigar lighter is not being used, it automatically will go into sleep mode after a while. However, the AC outputs have to be manually turned off, right? So if we were to unplug these two adapters, the AC output would still be on, probably giving off a little tiny trickle charge. You got to manually shut that off. Okay, just features of the power station you need to know about. So I think what I'm gonna do, because it's starting to get dark, you probably noticed a little bit of lighting change here. I think I'm gonna call it for today. We'll continue some more tests tomorrow. What I'm gonna do tomorrow is hook up a fan to this and let it run for a while and see how much we're gonna unplug the DC input and see how much that draws it down. And we will also test that freezer, which is the white block that you see behind it. And then I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, folks, we are on day 2 of testing. So it looks like overnight it held the charge, which is great. We're gonna try a couple more power hungry items and see how they do. Let's get started. All right, folks, so the first thing we're gonna do is test a little space heater. Now remember, this is not really designed to be able to handle loads like this for a prolonged period of time. Let's take a look at the back here. This is actually 1,500 watts. Okay, so this is, the OKMO is a 1,000 watt solar power, I'm sorry, it can be charged solar. This is a 1,000 watt power station. And so it can peak up to 2,000. So what I think is going to happen is it is going to run this, but it's going to be heavy on the load, right? So it's going to be drawing a lot of power. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see that 100% battery start to drop down. But let's give it a test. We'll see how we do. Now, one other thing that may happen is if the drawer is too much, the smart chip could kick on and just shut it all down, which is fine. It's just, that's a safety precaution, and it means, you know, that it's functioning as intended. So let's give it a try. Let's see what happens here. All right, we're gonna start really, really low. Oops, sitting on the wire, that's not good. We're gonna start really, really low and kind of work up from there. So we start on the little fan. Okay. Okay, I can hear it kicking on. I don't know if the video's picking up that. Turn it up just a little more. And I'm just gonna kind of keep creeping up the power a little bit. Okay, up to 5. Now remember, on items like this, the startup draw is often double. Okay, so that's why if you have something like this, again, I probably wouldn't even attempt to do this more than, you know, if it works, I'm not going to do it more than 30 minutes if I do it at all. And I'm going to start on the lowest settings if I can. Okay, we're on max 7 there for temperature. And I'm going to kick this dial up to high in just a minute. I just want to kind of give it a second to... All right, that is as high as that will go. I'll back out the camera here a little bit. You know what? I'm getting quite a bit of heat coming off of this. Let's do this. I'm going to run it for 15 minutes. I'm going to stay close by just in case there's any problems, but I'm just going to run it for 15 minutes, see how it goes. All right, so it actually I'm going to show you, within 6 minutes, it drew down. It was almost, this light had come off for a second, so it looks like it's somewhere between 60% and 80%. We'll call that 70%. So it drew down in 6 minutes, 30% of the charge. I'm not surprised. Bottom line, it is not designed to heat your house, okay? And I just want to make that clear because I see in a lot of the prepper forums people saying that they want to get one of these for heating in the wintertime. It's not capable of doing that. That's not to say that this isn't a great item. It is a great item. You just have to know what it can and can't do. This is great for small electronics and fans and things like that. In fact, I'm going to show you a fan test here in just a little bit. Let's go to the next one though. So for heating options, you're going to want like either a fireplace or a wood stove or like one of those propane little buddies, things like that. Those are all good choices, but you cannot, or generator, like a fossil fuel generator, you cannot do it with something like this. It's going to draw. It did run, but as you can probably hear from quiet for a second, the fan is cooling down the chips right now, and it drew down power faster than it would possibly be able to replace it. All right, let's do the next test. Okay, and just one more thing to add to that last test with the small heater. The same goes for window unit air conditioning. This just will not be able to run that for a prolonged period of time. So you want to come up with other solutions for cooling down. This will not solve that problem for you. Okay, next test I'm running is that chest freezer that you see behind you. Okay. And this is approximately 250 kilowatt hours with a 700 watt startup. Okay, so based on the kilowatt hours for the OKMO, that should be able to run a small chest freezer like this for somewhere between 5 and 8 hours. I'm not seeing any problems. Actually, the fan has kicked off. It handled the startup load, no problem. So I'm not going to run this for 8 hours because I want to run one more test. I just want to show you that, yeah, for a small fridge or a small freezer, this will probably get you through like a 1-day outage, okay? And if you're charging up simultaneously with the solar panels, you could probably extend that. Or if you can charge it off of something else like your car, and kind of use your car as a generator, you could extend that. So it has some capabilities for a fridge and small freezer. Why is that important? Well, number one, if you can put all of your food into all your frozen food into that one freezer, you're not going to have to throw it out if you have a 1 day, maybe a day and a half, maybe 2 days, depending on your situation, of power outage. Okay, as long as your food is still frozen, you're not going to have to throw it out if it hadn't thawed at any process. If it hadn't thawed, if it did, you're going to have to cook it up and use it or throw it out. All right, that's thing one. Thing two, if you have a family member with a CPAP or who has medications that have to be stored cold, then this could probably run one of those small like dormitory refrigerators. No problem. Put your most critical stuff into that small refrigerator, and that would be able to do that for, you're going to keep it at least cool for a day. Might be able to extend that again with your solar panels if you have those, or by charging this thing back up with your car. Or if you have access to a generator, then that solves all of those problems. Of course, this is a lot more quiet than a generator. That's one of the advantages of this. So just kind of letting you know some of the capabilities of this. I'm really happy with what this is doing with that. I would have no problem using it to keep that freezer running during a hurricane outage here for a day or two. Usually our power is restored within 3 days. That would buy us a little bit of time. You can throw some frozen water bottles in there ahead of time. That's going to buy you a little bit more time. We might be okay for 2.5, 3 days here. If I charge that thing up through the solar, I can extend that, okay? Everybody's situation is going to be different depending on how much heat you have in your area when the power goes out. All right, so we're going to do our last test here. So I'm going to run this fan. So this is one of the ways that we would choose to cool here if the power was out, because I don't use a loud, noisy propane or gasoline generator. So what we do is we have some battery operated fans and things like that, which have gotten us by. It's not ideal. South Carolina is very, very hot in September and sometimes in October when those hurricanes knock out the power, but it helps. At least it makes it comfortable enough that I can get some stuff done and get some sleep. So right now you can see we're at about 80% on that charge. It's actually probably close to dropping off of that based on what I saw on the previous test. And then I'm running just one of these little stand-up fans here, okay? All right, and let's go ahead and turn this on high. So I've turned that on as high as it will go, and let's go ahead and add the oscillating too. All right, just so it uses a little bit more power to oscillate the air around the room. And I'll set my timer and we'll see how this does over time. And that will be my final test. Then I'll give you my final results. All right, y'all, several hours have passed here. It's actually been 3 hours to be exact, and not even a drop in the battery power. So this fan is about 25 watts. Just kind of give you an idea. You really could run this for days, which is a nice little way to cool down without having to, run a big generator that's going to make a lot of noise to run your window units. Not going to be as effective, of course, but it gives you an option. All right, crew, I really appreciate it. If you've made it all the way to the end, please drop a comment down below with hashtag OKMO. That way I know who my ride or die crew is. I really appreciate y'all. If you're brand new to the channel, please remember to subscribe. I drop videos at least twice a week. Would love to have you back. Final thoughts on the OKMO. So yeah, I like this a lot. It actually has surpassed my expectations. I am probably going to pick up that solar panel at some point. I've got a couple other big expenses going on right now that I have to prioritize over that. I just had new tires put on my vehicle and Christmas is coming up and whatnot. But I like it enough that I'm going to add at least one solar panel, and I'll test that out. If you want me to test that out, let me know in the comments down below if you want a video on that, and I'll let you know how that goes. If I really enjoy that, maybe I'll pick up a second one. I will drop a link down below if you want to check out the OKMO. Final thoughts on this. At the time of filming this, the price was around $700. So it is a big ticket item in the prepper community. If it sounds like that's a lot, I will tell you that I did do some comparison shopping online, and this is about $500 cheaper than a lot of the $500 more affordable than the competitor models of the same power output. Okay, so these little power stations, especially the ones that can handle solar to charge up tend to be a little bit pricey, but it has pros and cons. It has advantages over the propane and gasoline powered ones because it's very quiet and stealthy, and maybe that's what you prefer. So you could do a combination of both if your budget allows for that. You could, run your AC and heat and big refrigerator off of your fossil fuels generators, and you could run all of your smaller stuff off of this. How could somebody use this? Well, if you were a camper and you had a big family who all are using different kind of electronics and cameras and things like that when you're out for a couple days adventures, then that little 50,000 milliamp power brick is not going to get you there. That works fine for me, but I do my camping solo, right? If you had a big family, you definitely would want something like this. If you are into RV life and you like to go off grid a little bit, I think they call that boondocking, right? This is a perfect little, way to have some extra energy for your electronics and your camera and all your YouTubing equipment. For those of you who are into van life and nomadic lifestyle, this would work fantastic for that. For somebody like me who gets hurricanes a couple times a year and power gets knocked out once or twice a year, at least for a few days, this is going to do really, really well for me. This is going to expand my capabilities. Maybe you could think of some other ways to handle this. A couple final last minute thoughts. Obviously, what I would use this for myself is fans for kind of cooling down, charging up all of my phones and iPads and entertainment stuff, charging up my rechargeable batteries. You could run some string lights if you like to have those around for like the little LED string lights, and that can light up a room, or you could use that when you go camping. Would do that for a very, very long time before it loses power. And as I showed you, there's multiple ways that you could recharge this thing. All right. If you are a diabetic or somebody who needs a CPAP machine, I would say that this is a top priority. You need to have something like this for when the power goes out, okay? If you have meds that have to be stored in the refrigerator, you need to have something like this for when the power goes out. I really appreciate you. Keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.